Here's the deal. My friends at Brazen have spent the last year writing the book on recruiting chatbots. It's jam-packed with tons of the best practices and examples of companies who are successfully using chatbots to hire the best talent. We're talking companies like Walgreens, USAA, and Presidio. And because you're a listener of my show, they want to send you a free copy of the book. Just head over to brazen.com/chatbots to get a free copy today. You can get a copy sent to your door for postage, or you can download the digital version right now. Don't wait, because the book is flying off the shelves. And as a bonus, if you sign up today, they'll send you their #1 downloaded ebook on winning the war for talent. Again, go to brazen.com/chatbots to get all this for free today. Before we get started, I wanted to introduce Kevin Grossman, who's the president of the Talent Board. He has some information he'd like to share with you.
Thanks, Lauren. Appreciate being here.
And this October, you guys have a big event.
We do. So on October 14th in Washington, D.C. at the Marriott Wardman Park Hotel, we are running our Candy Symposium and Awards Gala. Every year we do research with hundreds of companies around the world and capture hundreds of thousands of candidate responses to our survey research about their candidate experience from pre-application to onboarding. And then those companies who have the highest positive candidate ratings, we celebrate them throughout the day, and into the evening, we have great speakers and sessions, and then awards dinner that evening. So that's what's happening on October 14th.
What time does it start?
It starts at 9 a.m. and goes until 10 p.m.
So it's this October 14th at the Wardman Hotel. The report that you guys generate afterwards, how can folks get that?
So they can go to our site at thetalentboard.org, and everything's available free to download.
And how can I register to come to the event on the 14th?
You go to thetalentboard.org is probably the easiest way. And if you use the code CE19VIP, you can get $50 off our registration for a total of $395 to come for the day.
Welcome back to another episode of The Lauren Epstein Show. I am your host, Lauren Epstein, and here we are at the Social Recruiting Strategies Conference with Kara Yarnot. Kara is one of the speakers here. We've had some great speakers, Susan Lamont, Josh Gamble, who've been talking about all sorts of cool things. Kara is the Vice President of Strategic Consulting Services at HireClix, which is a recruitment, advertising, and consulting firm. She uses her extensive experience as a recruiter and talent acquisition leader to advise her clients on recruitment strategy, technology evaluation, and selection. She's a frequent speaker at industry conferences and loves to debate the usefulness of metrics. You can ask her how she feels about time to fill metric at KLYARNOT on Twitter. Welcome to the show, Kara.
Thank you.
So I love that. How do you feel about time to fill metric?
So time to fill, I think, is one of the evilest metrics we have in talent acquisition. And
say why.
The primary reason is it actually drives the wrong behavior. So if we are setting time to fill goals, which every company has, let's say 45 days, recruiters are evaluated on that. So they focus on keeping their number within the goal. So what often happens, and I've done this in so many different industries and sat with so many recruiters and asked them, at the beginning of your day, show me what you do. And they look at their list of openings and they sort by how long it's been open, and they work on those that have been open the longest. Whether they are an administrative assistant position or a C-level suite position, they're not actually focused on what role is going to have the biggest business impact for my organization. So their behavior is just focused on hitting a metric that is somewhat inconsequential, because different types of positions should have different time to fill. Location has an impact on that level skill set. So it really drives recruiters to not focus on the right things, thus not allowing them to be really tied to business results.
Yeah, so no, I totally agree. I mean, the problem with recruiting to a single metric is that it doesn't really tell a story.
Correct.
Right? I mean, and I think the reason why time to fill is so up there is that all the CEO does when they walk around is to see, well, what positions have been filled.
Right.
And that's all they care about.
Right. And we have not, as an industry, kind of managed up and talk to them about what other metrics they should be focused on.
Yeah.
So we haven't advocated for ourselves. As
No,
well
we're
either.
horrible at managing up.
Yes.
And I think it's because we see ourselves, this is a great conversation, so because we've both been in the recruiting
Yeah.
seat, as like service providers.
Yes.
So what happens is that, and you're listening because you're in the industry,
Yes.
The hiring manager says, here, fill a rec. And you
Yeah.
just take that thing and you want to fill it as fast
Right.
as you can and and so you go and you don't ask any questions.
Right.
You just turn around, you sit at your desk and you're like, da, 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 da. And then weeks and weeks and weeks go by and you have no idea that there really are no people like that available wherever it is they're looking for.
Right.
Or you don't or they don't exist. And
Right.
you never go back to the manager and have conversations with the manager. And if you're listening, dude, this is what happens.
Right.
You've got to get this squared away. So when we talked about your subject for the show, we talked about three things. One was animal rescue,
Yes.
which I thought would be a lot of fun.
Yes.
The other one was traveling to interesting places to go,
Yes.
which you do a lot of.
I do.
But those two really aren't relevant to the show.
Right.
The third one was how to align your recruiting with the process.
Yes.
I would have a lot of fun talking about the first two,
Right.
but why don't we stick with the how to align your recruiting with the process?
Sure. So a lot of the work that we do at HireClix is focused on evaluating the total talent acquisition function for, their structure, the types of roles they have in the team, the technology that they use, the sourcing programs that they have. And typically clients will reach out to us to look at one of those areas. We prefer to look at them all at once because they all play off of each other. Your organization structure should influence how you fill positions, what types of roles that you have. But time and time again, what we find is no matter what problem we're trying to solve for a client, it all comes back down to their actual process was not designed to align with their business goals. So, I ask the question, why do you do that? And the answer is always, well, because we always have. And there isn't an alignment between, what is priority, much like the metrics, and what is valuable to the business, what isn't valuable. So let's take the stuff that's not valuable out. Whether we're choosing a technology, whether we're deciding how to run an employee referral program, it always comes down to process. And my sales team, I think I have finally got them to understand this, that they're leading with that when we're talking about consulting services. So that if your process is broken or misaligned, it doesn't matter what amazing technology you pick, it's not going to solve that problem.
Right.
It doesn't matter what a great program for employee referrals you put together. It's actually going to exacerbate the problem because you're going to get a lot more quality candidates, and your process is broken. So
Right.
you can't actually deliver the results that you're after.
So I think the thing we started talking about may be a good to bring that back.
Sure.
When we're talking about kind of what is your strategy for recruiting? How do you kind of line things up?
Right.
We can start here. I mean, I always think that you should lay out what is your current recruiting process.
Yes.
And often people don't know what is happening at one end. It's like the elephant, right?
Exactly.
So lay it out,
Yep.
like each piece, have everyone that's involved,
Yes.
diagram it, put it on a sticky board or a whiteboard so that everyone can see what it is that you're doing.
Yes.
Right? Is that
This
something
is
you do?
exactly how we start. We
Yeah.
get the right people in the room. We do put big sheets of white paper all around the room. Everybody gets Post-it notes. We give, red is recruiter, blue is hiring manager, green is candidate, and we just give them the instructions to say, here are the big areas of recruiting: need identification, sourcing, screening, interviewing, offer, whatever it might be. Just start writing down the tasks that the people in each of those roles do and stick them up there. And then we shut up, and we typically give them about a half an hour, and you start to see them questioning each other and not really what happens, and asking us what they should do, and just kind of let them go. And then we walk back through it with them, and that's where I start to ask them the questions. Well, why do you fill out this form?
Right.
Or who's directing you to do that, and why are they directing you to do that? So we
Is
start
there like a
thinking,
big aha moment when they see it all out
oh
there?
goodness, yes.
Yeah. Who's the most surprised?
Often the TA leader.
The TA leader is
The
surprised.
TA leader, and often they're the one bringing us in because they don't necessarily, they believe that that's broken, but they don't know day to day, particularly in larger enterprises, what a recruiting coordinator is doing or why they're doing that, or if the whole recruitment marketing team is truly aligned to what the business needs. So
Right.
they are typically the most surprised. The least surprised is always the recruiting coordinator, recruiting assistant. They are
They
the
know
ones,
exactly what's going on.
They are the ones that are telling people, no, you do this as a recruiter, remember? Because they are so far in the weeds
Yeah.
of every transaction.
Right.
So it's always a fun day. It's a long day, but that's where we start and we map it. We understand where the process breakdowns are, where they don't align with the business, and then we kind of go away, say, okay, if we're trying to reach whatever the goals are that we've covered beforehand, how can we take the waste out of this process? How can we smooth it? And how can we make sure it's meeting the goals, whether it's amazing candidate experience, filling positions faster, which is always everybody's, or building pipelines.
So do you redo the process and then
We do.
show it to them,
Yes.
or do they redo the process?
We redo the process. So we actually do that first step of the current process. We draw it and go back to them and say, we want to make sure we haven't missed anything. Typically, there's more aha moments when they see it drawn out in a nice, pretty process flow. And then we talk about where we're going to focus. They agree. We go away. We make recommendations for streamlining that process and come back and review it with them, get some feedback. We typically get we get that would be the best way to do it, but we have this internal compliance requirement, or we have to go to this system, and that's outside of our control to change.
And when they're looking at it, do they see the waste? Like when they're all
Yes.
looking at it, they go like, oh my God, why are we doing that?
Exactly.
Why are we doing this?
Yes. I mean,
So this is, and obviously, it's great to hire a consultant, but if
Right.
you're listening to this show, do this.
Right.
Right, just kind of lay out your process, and even from there, you can start, well, let's pull this out, and let's move these things together,
Exactly.
and maybe if you have questions on what technology can help.
Right. I mean, that's how I learned. I started doing it for myself in my career, and
Yeah.
has turned it into, I have my specific approach, but this is definitely something that you can do.
Yeah.
You have to definitely take, the emotions out of it and the people out of the roles, which we typically tell, I don't want to know that, you maybe not have the strongest recruiter over here. Let's not design the process so you can avoid them.
Yeah.
Let's just say, what should the best recruiter be doing in this state?
Okay, all right, so when we say, okay, here's our process that's maybe broken,
Yep.
what do we look to map it to? Like, what do we look to in the business to say, well, this is what our process should be?
So that's an excellent question. That's typically our very first step when we engage with the new client, is we ask to get an overview of the business plan, the strategy. Depending on the client,
Is there usually a business plan?
yes,
Is there usually a business strategy?
depends on who you ask, but yes. So we try to
Because
get
are those
to a C-suite.
are those aligned?
Exactly. Hopefully they are. But trying to get into what are the goals of this organization? What are your growth plans? What skills do you anticipate in the future? Is that going to change? Are you more in a acquisition mode, or you could be bringing a lot of other companies in and going to have to figure out how to manage all of them under a new umbrella? So trying to understand what all of that is, but really what is the biggest driver for the company to reach whatever their goals are, whether it's revenue, whether it's profit, whether it's growth, just understanding those things. So we ask to meet with typically a CFO, COO, CHRO in a room, and just say, okay, just pretend we're analysts and you're talking to us about what's going on in your business. And that's where we get the picture and we start to pick out, okay, most important for them is they are always going to have a need for the next 2 years for these 3 skill sets. We need to make sure we're building a process that supports that. And that might mean that your sourcing process changes.
So you're then putting in like that long-term vision.
Exactly.
Because that may have not been in it. It may be
Right.
just like we're constantly maybe going back and reinventing the wheel for that
Right.
particular position. But if we know we're going to be looking for it, let's
Exactly.
build something out.
100%.
Yeah, let's share where's the pools? What can we do to help with the
Exactly.
pipeline? How far up the pipeline can we go?
Exactly. What tools do we have, or that we can use better, or do we need different ones? That type of thing starts to fall
So
out.
there's always like sometimes good is the enemy of perfect.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
How much effort should really someone do? How much? To me, in my experience, it's like if you do something, that's better than nothing.
Yes. I think the mapping what's going on today, you can truly do that in a day. If you want to make it look pretty on a piece of paper, that's another. You can do that in PowerPoint. So if you could truly dedicate, 2 full days, you can get what's happening today captured. And that, in the grand scheme of things, not a lot of effort. And you can quickly see, anybody that looks at what's happening today, where obvious holes are that can be fixed today.
Yeah.
With the processes you have, the people, the
What
structure.
are the usual suspects?
The usual suspects are approvals, rec approvals and offer approvals, and we're amazed.
Just that chain of how many people have to
chain
touch.
of how many people and how long it takes. And even in this job
Right.
market today,
Right.
we are seeing clients with offer approvals taking 10 business days. You know, the person comes in and interviews, you decide you want to offer them, you have the conversation, and then it's routed all over.
So let's talk about that for a
Yeah.
second, because I think you're right. That one seems like a silly thing. I think that the job process should start with the CFO saying, you are authorized to hire this person up to this much money. And that it should be advertised as this position is paying this much money. And I'll tell you why. That the salary secrecy laws.
Yes.
And in part, the salary secrecy laws say that a recruiter cannot directly ask, how much money are you making?
Today.
You can ask, how much do you want to make?
Right.
And I think it's just like a brilliant concept. Like, you wouldn't go into Starbucks and say, I want a cup of coffee, and Starbucks says to you, well, how much money do you have?
Right.
And you say, well, I've got $20. It's like, okay, well, a cup of coffee is $20.
Right. Right.
Right? They put the price out.
Exactly.
We wouldn't tolerate that.
No.
So, and in part, it's because of people, like, it started in Massachusetts.
Yes.
We actually did a couple of shows on this, in that a lot of people who are at the lower end of the pay scale were just staying compressed because
Correct.
they were not getting raises. They weren't asking for it. And if they were given an offer for 60, even though the employer would have paid 80,
Right.
they're so happy.
Right. I think these salary secrecy laws are some of the best things that are going to happen in the industry. Because what we do, and when we work with clients, is we say, you need to understand what is the value this position provides to the organization. And we need to use salary surveys about what is it paying today, but we need to understand that up front. And with one very large defense contractor a couple of years back, we solved their approval process by making just the change you talked about, not necessarily the CFO, but when the rec is open, their compensation approves a range in which you can hire somebody. And if when we get to offer, and that is the right amount for that person, the recruiter has all the flexibility to move within it. And if you need to go over or above for a reason, then that's an exception. We took their time to fill from about 70 days, and I hate time to fill, but this is a great way to look at it, from about 70 days on average to around 40 days on average, because they were getting they had very long processes there, but really upfront, what is this position worth to the organization? Not what is the person coming in making, to your point. It's not relevant. And it's also strange because I may decide tomorrow that I want to go back and be a recruiter. Well, that's probably a different salary point that I'm at today. So I understand that. And so what I make now doesn't really have anything to do with what you would pay me. It's what does the value of recruiter bring to your organization.
Yeah, I don't think we've kind of nailed that and hammered that in people's heads. Like, you can hire somebody who may have been making more money for less money.
Right.
It just seems like
Right.
you can.
You 100% can. And
Yeah.
there are people that are looking for those types of opportunities as well.
For lots of reasons.
Right. Whole host of reasons. They don't want the commute. I live in the DC area.
Right.
That will make people take a lot less money if they can spend less time in their car.
Sure, if there's a job 2 blocks from my house, I'll take a lot less money.
Yes, 100%.
Because, often, where we live in the DC area, both people work.
Yep.
So someone could take a hit if now someone can
Yeah.
pick up the kids.
Right.
Or someone's
Yeah,
there
you
to
don't
take
have to pay
care
for
of
after-school
mom or
care.
dad. Or
Right, exactly.
Yeah, why don't we talk about that?
We're always worried
We're
about...
talking about it now, but
it's not an often topic. I'm working with a client now where I'm actually helping build their new compensation structure, and we just started having that conversation.
So what's that? Because I'm interested now that we're talking about it. Let's stay on that for a minute. What can I tell my hiring manager, my CEO, like, hey, let go of this whole idea that we can't pay people less?
Right. So I think it truly comes back to let's focus on the value of the position, not the person, the value of the position. We think this position is valued at the organization, however you determine it. If it's billable to the client, you make a percentage of that, whatever that number is, and let's just say it's $100,000. That's the value. We can have a little bit of wiggle room on either side, and if we can find the right candidate, that can perform the job that you're after. Doesn't matter if they're making more or they're making less. I mean, if they're choosing to make a decision, they know what they're doing. You need to know that going in, that it is a change for them. So there might be some change management, but empower your recruiters to have that conversation and own that salary range. And it doesn't necessarily matter one way or the other. If they're making more.
Yeah. See, I think we need to give, it's like, replacement therapy for puppies.
Yes.
You take their thing you don't want them to eat,
Right.
and you give them something. I think with CEOs and other leaders, we have to say, okay, we're taking away what this person was making, and we're giving something else.
Yes.
What would we give? If I said, I'm not going to tell you how much they were making,
Right.
but I am going to tell you that I'm going to pay them $50,000.
Right.
What are the, I could say, well, and they've got, 10 years of experience,
Right.
and the manager really wants to hire them. What else would I say to be able to take away so that we should just forget about what they were making?
Okay, take away the knowledge of past salary, because
Yeah.
in many
And-
instances now you're not going to have it anyway.
But if I take away the knowledge of past salary,
Right.
I also have to have in my process that set salary range.
Exactly.
Pre-approved.
So, right. And I think what you truly are giving them is you're giving them the true value of the role, where we have been backwards of, I want Lauren to work for me, and so I'm going to need to have to pay him this much. Well, wait a minute. What's he going to do for you? What is the position? So we're flipping it to a conversation that happens well before a position even exists versus the conversation that happens when we identify a candidate. So we're actually giving them more control over salaries,
Right.
because we're setting benchmarks and ranges from the beginning. So I would look at it that way, that we're actually giving them more influence over how the business is going to be run, what our base costs are going to be.
Yeah, and I think
versus
most humans and a lot of the social studies show that people don't mind if someone's making more, but they don't like unfairness
Right.
and arbitrariness.
Yes.
If this person's got more experience than me, then I expect them to be making more. But if they're exactly like me with the exact same experience and they're making more,
Right.
I don't feel good.
No.
And everyone gets to know kind of what everyone's
Yes.
making.
Right.
I once took a job, a leadership job, and I found out that someone else in the company who had a lot less experience than me had the same salary as I did.
Yeah.
And it was only because they negotiated or
Right.
whatever. I had my story about it,
Yeah.
but it didn't feel good.
Right. No, it definitely doesn't. And it also, and now you're an employee there not feeling good. Let's focus on kind of the win-win solution for everybody.
Yeah.
We know what this is value is to organization. We're upfront with you. I love your recommendation earlier about actually posting what the salary range is on your job ads.
Yeah.
I've yet to convince anybody to do that.
Well, it'll keep people away,
Right.
and it'll attract the right people.
It'll attract the right people. And honestly, little tangent, but those places like Glassdoor that are telling people what the salary is going to be that are way off, you don't have to worry about that anymore. You just put your information out there.
Exactly.
And it just, transparency in general, in my world, is, really does solve a lot of problems.
I really think you're right. I think I think this is something that we should be talking about, the salary secrecy laws, because I think that no company was going to do this anyway.
Right.
And
No.
now that the laws are saying that you have to do it, it
Right.
really kind of sets off a whole chain of events that's
Right.
going to make it better for us. I think we've all kind of grown, a lot of us have grown up, particularly those of us working for a while, with negotiate your salary.
Yes.
And it's you shouldn't negotiate your salary.
Right. Right.
That shouldn't be something that's part of the deal.
Right.
It throws the entire, I'm not picking on, no, I am. I'm going to pick on CEOs of big companies that make tens of millions of dollars a year because they negotiated it.
Right.
And that's not good for the business.
No.
There's no way that could be good for the business.
Right. Because no matter what happens with the business, they're still making their tens of millions of dollars a year, and
Yeah,
they've
and
got
nobody
their golden
brings-
parachutes and the whole thing
Yeah,
on the way out.
Nobody brings that kind of value.
No.
I can see maybe basketball players and movie stars who have a direct effect, but
Right.
the person who runs a company is not working 5,000 times harder.
Right.
Or
And
bringing,
the person on the manufacturing floor, yeah, probably not.
the salesperson is bringing in
Yeah,
the money.
exactly. I agree with you completely.
So that's something that we can keep things simple,
Right.
keep things open.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what we'll do.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm not going to pay myself $10 million.
Right.
I could never see myself doing that.
Right.
There was a story about this guy who was running a company, and his equivalent salary in the day, this was in the 70s, was $1 million.
Yes.
And his board said, well, we want to give you a raise. And he's like, I'm not going to take a raise. The guys that work for me will just totally think I'm an idiot.
Right.
Because because they're like, what? Like you're not so like that whole feeling of I'm not better than you is.
Well, and I think
we lost it somewhere.
Right, corporate boards, to your point, have been a big part of this problem.
Yeah.
They're definitely putting those packages out there, moving in that direction. So people with those skills to be a CEO believe that that's their value.
Yeah, and because they're all from the same, right? They're CEOs of other companies.
Right, exactly.
I mean, it's kind of incestuous.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they're just moving the shells around, to different places.
Yeah. Like, hey, you're a recruiter. I'm a recruiter.
Yeah.
You tell me what do you think my salary should be?
Right. Exactly. Right.
A lot.
Exactly.
Cool. So, well, we have a few minutes, so I want to talk about animal rescue.
Sure.
And your traveling. So, what do you do with animal rescue?
So I got into animal rescue when we adopted our very first dog about 11 years ago. Accidentally, we went actually looking for a dog for my mother-in-law, and the one that we thought for her was no longer at the shelter. And so we said, we'll just take a look around. And we ended up 15 minutes later walking out of there with a we didn't know at the time, but a 12-year-old Beagle Dachshund mix. And Missy was just the light of our lives. We only had her for 3 years. She lived to 15. And through that experience, we just started to think about the fact that there are all these homeless pets out there that are not advocated for. So started volunteering with there's so many animal rescues in Northern Virginia. So I've volunteered with several of them across time. And really looking to help connect the animals in shelters, particularly in the South. The Carolinas, Alabama, Mississippi, very well known for not being able to find adopters for their pets and getting them to areas of the country where there are more adopters than there are pets. So there's a lot of that activity as well.
So you're a dog recruiter?
Yeah, I'm a dog recruiter.
You place dogs.
Exactly. And between animal rescue and travel, I was able to combine the two. There is an amazing place in a town called Kanab, Utah. It's the Best Friends Animal Society. It is the largest no-kill animal shelter in the nation. At any point in time, they have between 17 and 1,800 animals.
Wow. Cats,
dogs, horses, pigs, bunnies, a whole host. It's an amazing organization. They're in a beautiful part of Utah. And so when I was between my very last corporate job and starting my own business a few years ago, I took myself a vacation there and had the opportunity to volunteer in very different areas, learn a lot about how to train dogs, particularly, that might not appear to be adoptable, and get them to a point where they are ready for a home.
So one last thing. So what's been your favorite thing at Social Recruiting Strategies Conference?
Oh my goodness. Honestly, I think Allison Cruz's opening keynote was fantastic. She gave a framework that I want to take to all of my clients just about gathering the content that already exists. And that's one of the challenges we have with working with clients is they know it's out there. They know, corporate comms has some, marketing has some, recruiters might have created some. But the way she laid it out was so logical that I am going to steal that from her with attribution because I think it was really, really fantastic.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Kara Yarnot with HireClix. Oh, and we didn't even hear what HireClix does.
Oh, HireClix recruitment marketing advertising firm is what we started as. We added the strategic consulting services about 2.5 years ago. So we really can help our clients during the whole candidate process, from trying to attract them to how do you get them all the way through and stay engaged with your process.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kara.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Lauren Epstein Show here at the Social Recruiting Strategies Conference, and thank you so much for being a guest. We'll see you on the next episode.
Sounds great.
Hi, this is Lauren Epstein with The Lauren Epstein Show, and I'm sitting here with Kara Mignelli, who is the leader of the Social Recruiting Strategies Conference and the eBrand Cons, and they've got some exciting news. They're having Talent Acquisition Week in January of 2020. Can you tell us about that, Kara?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Lauren. We're really thrilled about 2020, which sounded really far off when I was a kid, but thrilled to be planning for 2020. And so our vision is to take a step into the future of talent acquisition. And we're really thrilled to be hosting our flagship event, SRSC, which is the Social Recruiting Strategies Conference, as well as eBrandCon, along with a new event, Talent Sourcing Strategies Summit. We'll be hosting those 3 separate events together at the same venue in San Francisco this coming January 28th through the 30th. And we're providing an opportunity for people to be collaborative and learn new things. If you buy a ticket to any of our 3 events, we're going to allow people to go from one event to another. So the agenda doesn't overlap, except for we have some great opening keynotes, and we have a shared expo floor, and we're planning fun networking events as well.
This is exciting. I could see companies sending their entire teams of recruiting folks to learn and then network. What a great opportunity. And how can folks register now?
They can visit talentacquisitionweek.com and sign up for more information. Registration will open and the full agenda will be published.
Fantastic. Well, we're really looking forward to it. Go to talentacquisitionweek.com and sign up now.
Thanks, Lauren.
If you want to sell more to HR and TA professionals, we can help you bring your brand into the ears of over 100,000 decision makers around the world. To advertise on this and other shows, contact us at lauren@laurenepstein.com.